Good morning and welcome to the Daniel Baldwin Show. It is Friday, January 31st, the last day of the month of January in 2025. And on the table today, I felt compelled to talk about RFK Jr., his nomination to become Trump's health secretary. I got to tell you, I get so confused sometimes over how the information comes out and the spin that people are in favor or not in favor, and on both sides. I'm not eliminating anyone from my scrutiny. I'm not. But man, this guy has faced a lot, when you think about politically, the Kennedys, the family, the legacy. But he has stepped away from the party that made his family famous. He jumped over to the Republican side through Trump. And I'm not going to do a whole analysis on why and, his blah, 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 blah. Honestly, I really don't care. I don't care. I believe one thing. I believe a number of the things that he has pointed out to the American public are accurate and true. I do. I believe they're very unpopular. I believe when it comes to socioeconomics, you're going to find a lot of people that are going to suffer financially due to some of his findings and due to some of the things that he says that he wants to do. So let me read this to you first. Trump Health Secretary nominee RFK Jr. survives heated hearings ahead of crucial confirmation votes. So Trump appointed him, they got to vote this guy in, and they're doing their due diligence. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that. Let me read on a little bit so we can put this on the table and I can tell you where I have some serious problems. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., President Donald Trump's nominee for Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services, still faces crucial committee and full Senate confirmation votes in the mission to lead 18 powerful federal agencies that oversee the nation's food and health. Testifying in front of the Senate Finance Committee on Wednesday and the Health Committee on Thursday, the vaccine skeptic and environmental crusader who ran for the White House in 2024 before ending his bid and endorsing Trump faced plenty of verbal fireworks over the past controversial comments. So I started looking up and I started researching, what does Kennedy want? I believe he wanted a platform. I believe that he was rejected by the Democrats. I believe that he ran independent and his influence, based on the concern of some citizens, he had a following of as low as 5, as many as 7 points in the election. There were rumors that he went to Harris first and she rejected him. Boy, did that backfire in Biden and Harris' face, if that's true. Because of the narrow margin of victory for President Trump. I'm quite happy at how it turned out. I think the nation needed it. Health Secretary nominee Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is about to face a grilling from senators in what could be the toughest confirmation hearings yet for one of President Donald Trump's cabinet picks. The position of head of the Department of Health and Human Services has a broad remit across the U.S. health industry, including food safety, pharmaceuticals, public health, and vaccinations. If his post is confirmed by the U.S. Senate after he appears before 2 committees on Wednesday and Thursday, he would be in charge of key health agencies with about 80,000 employees and $1 trillion budget. That's a very, very large commitment and responsibility for any human being to have. What I'm finding coming out and in following some of the questions being asked and watching some of the live footage of what he's undergoing right now, there's a lot of people beating him up over his stance on vaccinations. There's a lot of people beating him up on whether he's qualified as a health advocate versus a health professional with enough experience to go in and do the job necessary for this coveted position. So let me address that first, because I understand those concerns. I do. It's kind of the same as asking somebody who's never been president before to come in and be president. Do you really believe that, let's take an example, Jimmy Carter, Do you really believe that even though he was governor of California, Ronald Reagan or Bush Jr. really had a lot of military experience and running and being the commander in chief? Did he? No. No, I don't believe Bush Jr. had commanded troops before, was a general, knew much about it. What did he know about foreign policies and the laws, rules, and traditions of Lithuania? What did he know? Well, I can keep going on, and you're going to, I think, get the point of what I'm saying. Who does? Who does, when you're put in these offices, knows what the treaties between them are? You learn it, and you elect a cabinet. You elect guys underneath you. They're going to help support. I think wanting to do the right thing is what Kennedy's talking about. Wanting to look at things as they are and say, well, which one of these are really broken? Because our system is really screwed up and very corrupt. It's very corrupt. Look at the people that are grilling him. Look at the people that are opposed to him getting this appointment. And look at what their financial interests are and what's included in it. Because there is large financial interests included in whatever happens with pharmaceutical companies. And we're going to delve down deeper into that rabbit hole a little bit as we go through this podcast. But rest assured, there's so much money involved here. There's so much stuff that happens that doesn't make any sense at all. That other governments in other countries, which I'm going to go through some of that too, that will tell you, well, of course, we would never do anything with knowledge or intentionally to hurt our people. Of course, we would never do that. We would never do something knowing that this could harm our people. Or if we had found out this could harm our people, we would most assuredly change those laws to protect our people, the ones that elected us and pay us our salary for the job that we're supposed to do. We would never do that. Would we? You tell me in the comments at the end. You tell me what you think after I point out some very basic things that you can Google on your phone or on your computer and look up to make sure that I'm telling you the truth. Because it's mind-blowing what actually we're capable of doing as a nation. It's mind-blowing to be in the pursuit pharmaceutically or in the food chain of money, and that being the most important factor. Kennedy said in his NPR interview that vaccines were not going to be taken away from anybody. So let's dispel that it said that Robert Kennedy wants to take away vaccines. He never said that. He says he wants to improve the science on vaccine safety, which he believes has huge deficits, and that he wants good information so people can make informed choices. But his critique of the vaccine safety regime has been roundly dismissed by experts. While Kennedy has denied on several occasions that he is an anti-vaccination person and said that he and his children are vaccinated, he has repeatedly stated a widely debunked claim about vaccines' harms. So, like many others, when you look at certain evidence, the number of autism, great subject to talk about in reference to this. So the numbers autism-wise, who I have a family member who is under the autism umbrella. He has what's called sensory integration disorder, which is autism, Asperger, sensory integration at varying levels, but it's in that umbrella. And you can see that he has some issues with autistic traits. Now, was that done? In his case, we know what probably was the biggest contributor, and no, it was not a vaccination. No. But when you look at the numbers and how they've escalated, that autism, and I'm going to make up these numbers just to set the example so you can see what I'm talking about. Not, please don't tell me that they weren't accurate because I'm making them up. But what you're going to see is that 30 years ago, there was, it was 1 in every 250, 350,000, whatever it was. And then 15 years ago, it was, now suddenly 1 in 150, 1 in 100. Now it's like one in every 40 or something, or even more than that. It's a much, much bigger number. So it's become every decade much more prevalent to see examples of autism in the births and in society, male and female. That's a fact. So it's increasing. So what does that tell you when it's increasing? Well, we're doing something environmentally, genetic, epigenetic. We're doing something. And why I think the shots and vaccinations are getting a lot of suspicion for being a cause is two reasons. One, there are a number of children who have gotten a vaccination and within a day or two had a reaction that caused autistic traits. A large number of children. So yes, my son was verbal. Yes, he was speaking. He had mastered 50 words. He was, 2 years old and very, very bright. And suddenly now he stares off. He's not audible anymore or barely audible. And what's the correlation? He had a shot 2 days before and suddenly he has this reaction. Now, if that happens once in a blue moon, you got to say, well, I don't know, is that coincidence? Did this kid have other stuff going on? Blah, blah, blah. When it happens the 10th, the 100th, the 200th, the 5,000th, then you start saying, oh my God, maybe there's something that when you give it to one person that doesn't do anything, when you give it to 500 people, doesn't do anything, but the 501, 502, and 503, they full blown lose it. They reject it. Something happens. Their system doesn't digest it. It affects them. That's a fact that this is happening. That's a fact. So look up the numbers, whether I dramatize them or whatever. It's a fact that that's happening. So let's look at the COVID vaccination. So what do most of these vaccinations that have been proven to be detrimental to your health, what do they have in common? One of the biggest leading things with the trail of autism and the suspected criminals within the vaccination are metals, aluminums, different kinds of metals that are in the vaccination, which, by the way, don't need to be in the vaccination. There's nothing that those metals serve in the vaccination to support what the vaccination is doing within your body. They don't even need to be there, but they're there. We suspect that they could cause terrible side effects. We're not sure 100% that they're the culprit, but we know they're not good for you, these metals, at any rate. People have to get the metals extracted from their body because of the cause and effect that it has on them, especially in your brain. So why are they in the vaccination at all? If there's no need for them in the vaccination, why are they in the vaccination? Wouldn't you ask yourself that question? Wouldn't you wonder, why are you putting this in that vaccination when you know it's not good for this to be in a human's body? And it has nothing to do with the elements of the vaccination or how it works or triggers the vaccination to work any better or whatever. There's no reason why they're not supposed to be there. You got to ask yourself that question. You got to ask yourself, why would that happen? Let me read you this. In April 2021, cases of myocarditis after COVID-19 vaccination, particularly among young male vaccine recipients, were reported to the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. What is added by this report? To determine the risk of sudden cardiac death among adolescents and young adults after COVID-19 vaccination, investigators examined June 21st through December 2022 Oregon death certificate data for descendants aged 16 through 30 years old. Of 40 deaths that occurred among persons who had received an mRNA COVID-19 vaccine dose, 3 occurred 100 days after the vaccination. Among these, 2 occurred in persons with underlying illness, and 1 descendant was undetermined cause of death. Why would they do that study? Think about something. Forget about all the reports. Forget about all the stuff they want you to believe. Forget about the information cycle, because I'm going to tell you something about my own child's pediatrician. You go in, you're healthy, You don't know, really have anything wrong with you. You're 23 years old, boy, just got out of college. And suddenly there's this terrible COVID, flu, disease, virus, whatever, and you're scared. They scare you to death. This is killing people. This could kill you. You look at big bad New York City and people are dropping like flies. Footage of hospitals overwhelmed with patients. What is this mystery disease? This is not AIDS where you contract it through some type of transference of blood or sexual contact where blood is exchanged. This supposedly someone could cough. You could touch a gas handle while you're putting gasoline in your car. This is super, super contagious and very, very dangerous, and people are dying. And well, of course, when the FDA comes out and tells you, hey, we rush to judgment, but we have a shot. We have a couple of them. You can get one of three that we're going to. Pfizer has one, Moderna has one, and Johnson & Johnson has one. Now, we need to tell you that we're going to sign over the responsibility because it's considered an emergency vaccination. Let's go all the way back for a second. Hold that thought for a second. To what a vaccination is. I want to whip my computer out right now and say, what is a vaccination? A vaccination, this isn't a vaccination. This doesn't prevent you from getting it. Fauci himself got COVID twice, I believe twice. And he was fully vaccinated. And he had the extra shots and he had the boosters, he had it all. He got it twice. So it doesn't stop you from getting anything. Think about that. It's termed a vaccination, which is given to you to prevent you from getting the disease. So when you tell me measles, mumps, chickenpox, and all this crap that my kid has to get pumped into his system, so he's qualified to go to the school that also is being paid by the same government that is telling me that I have to get the vaccination. He has to get them. Has to have them. They won't let him in. So the downside of it is that I'm going to, now think about this. I'm going to take my child, if he does get it, and take him to the hospital and get him treated. And I got to pay for that and run the risk of something happening to my child dying of that disease, measles. But he can't go to school where all the people that go to school there have to be vaccinated. And most of them are because they've been scared to death by big pharma and the medical field that these are super dangerous diseases and your kid's going to die from them, so you must vaccinate them. Those vaccinations, some of those, mumps, measles, rubella, have been tied to a lot of potential autistic and other problems down the road that you'll have, but you have to have them. The government and the schools and society pressures you into going to give your infant child these shots. Are you a biologist? I'm not. Do I see a chemical breakdown of exactly what's in that needle and why it's in the needle and what? I don't. We trust the system to guide us and lead us with some risk involved. Of course, there could be that rare child. That's not the case with COVID. That was not the case with COVID. COVID was not properly tested before it was FDA approved because it was considered an emergency. So now, without knowing at all what the long-term effect of taking those vaccinations is going to be on you, the American public. We're looking at, I didn't get a single shot. I wouldn't allow my children to get the shot. I did not allow that to happen because I knew it was way too convenient how this was coming out. It was way too scripted for me. Scare the crap out of them. You got to get the shot. People are going to die. Here's the answer. And then people kept getting sick after getting it. And I thought, what's in that shot? What's really in that needle that they're giving these people? And then people started dying. So I want to go back now to, you're the 23-year-old kid, you just graduated from college, you have no health problems, you're in good shape, you're superstar health-wise at that time. And you are so frightened by society and by the laws and by the news and everything else and the information you're being fed. Remember, you are being fed this information by people that have a lot of money and a lot of interest whether this vaccine goes forward. Now you turn around and you're so scared, you say, okay, you know what, I can't afford to get this. I just started this new job. Or your job requires you. You work as a civil servant, you're a teacher, you're in the military. You're a lot of people they forced to get or lose your job. So you get the shot, and 2 days later you drop dead. The next day you drop dead. Do you know how many of those people there were? Thousands worldwide. Thousands of people that got the shot, and within 48 hours they were dead without a single health problem at all. Now, you're going to look at these sudden cardiac arrests, you're going to look at these sudden deaths, you're going to look at these deaths, period. And the only control to all of them was they just got the shot, one of the vaccinations. And you're not going to tell me that there's something going on with the vaccination? I'm not talking about 10 people. I'm not talking about 100, a couple hundred. I'm talking about tens of thousands worldwide that died from getting the shot. And that's just the ones that died quickly, like an immediate reaction and died. Now, these are the numbers that are being reported. So you're going to say that's a coincidence? That's a freaky thing that, you know, lightning hit this guy and then hit his brother on the other coast, or when you hear those kinds of stuff. No, it's not. No, it's really not, actually. So knowing that the vaccination, short-term and long-term, we don't even know what's going to happen long-term. We don't even know. And I want to tie it up. So we now know COVID-wise. So I want to ask you a question. I want you to think about this statement. I asked AI, I asked Google, I asked Safari, I asked them all. And this is pretty much the consensus when I said, does the FDA have a responsibility? Do they have to ban substances when they find out that they are carcinogenic? So let's lay that out. If a source, a shot, a food, or anything, a chemical compound, is proven to cause cancer, proven to have carcinogenic qualities, do they have to? The FDA is required to ban food additives that are known to cause cancer in humans or animals. This is due to the Delaney Clause of the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. The Delaney Clause requires the FDA to ban any food additive that causes cancer in humans or animals. The FDA has banned some food additives that are known to cause cancer, including red number 3. Isn't it interesting that in this explanation, it tells us about red number 3? Okay. Do you really believe that? Do you really believe that on January 15th, 2025, the FDA banned the use of red 3, FD, and C red number 3 in food and ingested drugs? The ban was based on Delaney Clause and Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, the FD and C Act. Why was red banned? Cancer risk studies have shown that high levels of red cause cancer in male rats. However, the way that red causes cancer in rats does not occur in humans. Widespread use of 3 was commonly used in candles, cough syrups, fruit cocktails. Red 3 causes cancer, along with a number of other dyes that are in foods and many different products that the FDA saw fit to ban them because, as you've already heard, it is the FDA's responsibility, and they must ban known carcinogenic chemicals or additives in any food source, in anything that can be ingested. That includes touching things, that includes clothes, dyes, all kinds of different things that are categories that through your pores in your skin, in the administration of drugs, and administration of surgical procedures and dyes they inject. It can't have this in. So that sounds good, no? That sounds logical, humane, and what the FDA and what these agencies are supposed to do for us. Remember, January 15th, 2025 was when this was done, just days ago. January 15th, 2025, the FDA came around. Animal studies in the 1980s revealed that red number 3 causes thyroid cancer in rats. The FDA banned red 3 from cosmetics in 1990, but it remained legal in food. The FDA finally banned red 3 from food in January 2025. So, 1980s, so that's 80s, 90s, and then all the way to 2025. So if that counts out right for me, that's 45 years, or somewhere in there, 40 years, if it happened in 85, that the FDA, knowing that the red dye was taken out of cosmetics, was taken out, but left in food that we ingest. Keep in mind too, these are foods like, correct me if I'm wrong, Fruit Loops that kids eat. Red dyes in ingestible foods that human beings eat for over 40 years when they fully knew that it was carcinogenic and causing thyroid cancer and throat cancer and various cancers in lab animals. And they allowed us to keep eating it. They allowed our children for decades to eat something they knew caused cancer. That's what Robert F. Kennedy wants to stop. That's what he wants to stop. He wants to take and make it logical. He wants to look at stuff like this, and with the swipe of a pen, he wants to put it in front of the president and say, this chemical needs to be banned. This vaccine needs to be taken off the market until they take out aluminum, this, and this. It doesn't need to be in there. It has to be a requirement. We'll allow them to come right back, or whatever they're going to do. But when it's a no-brainer, when the rest of the world, Europe, Canada, our neighbor right north, right on our border, does not allow those dyes to be in any products they have for decades. But we continued to allow that dye to be ingested by our people, knowing it could make you sick. I could be the health minister. I could go in right now and tell you that, give me the 10 most prevalent cancer-causing chemicals that are ingested or and touches our skin, and list them for me right now, and say any product that has these in them is banned, or you're given a 90-day, 120-day, whatever it is, chemical out, recall all of it, and take the chemicals out that cause cancer now, or you don't do business in the United States anymore, you're banned. I'll sign that tomorrow if I had the power to do it. So why aren't we doing it? Because the same companies that own those food mills, excuse me, the same companies that profit on putting carcinogenic chemicals in your food are either related to, part of, or a conglomerate thereof, the same company that's going to treat the cancer you're going to get 40 years from now as a result of using them over and 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 over again. The same companies that are going to have the chemicals that are going to try to keep through cancer treatment, through chemos and all the different products that they have. They've got the circle fully enveloped now. They can go start from here. Sick, let's keep doing this. Let's give them things for their diabetes that doesn't really cure their problem at all. It doesn't really start making that organ work again. It doesn't do this. And then here's the chemicals that are going to make you feel more comfortable and going to keep you alive and prolong your life as long as we can until finally you die. So we're going to give you the cancer. We're going to cause you to get the cancer. We're going to actually feed you the cancer. So take your cup of coffee and do a splash of sugar, and a splash of cream, and a splash of cancer. Because the beans that we're allowing them to shoot to preserve them, that are served at some of the nation's biggest coffee chains, hint, hint, those are carcinogenic chemicals, and we don't care. In fact, we want you to ingest them. We want you to ingest them. We want to treat your cancer, your children, when you're long dead in heaven, looking down, watching your child suffer in a hospital bed when he's 50, through terrifying pain and saying goodbye to their family because they're going to die with the cancer that we fed them. We happily put it in a bowl with milk on it and handed it to your kid for years, never imagining that our government would allow them to do it. That in fact, the same companies that were doing it, that were creating that circle for themselves financially, were claiming to be your friend, and the politicians that we elected were taking money on the side or taking money for their campaigns from the same exact company. I believe that Robert F. Kennedy wants to end those practices. I think that's very unpopular. I think that there's people that make billions and billions and billions of dollars that will see him as an enemy. And I think that there are people that are elected officials that have been getting paid and getting the support of those companies for quite some time now that would absolutely guarantee they don't want this guy to get that office. So, and again, is Donald Trump the greatest human being ever to be president of the United States? Does Robert F. Kennedy have his flaws? Does Robert F. Kennedy? Yes, I'm sure he does, as do all of us. Is he trying to do something and break the mold of a system that does not really support us as Americans, of a system that really has no intention of trying to make us well, of a healthcare system that is part of a joke that has to do with lining people's pockets? It has nothing to do with greater wellness. Do you know that if we made some minor changes in what the FDA allowed in this country, we could raise the life expectancy in this country right now by 10 years in the next four years of the administration. 10-year life expectancy from, I don't know, what are we at, like 78, 79 now, something like that. I mean, we're not even in the top 20 worldwide. We're big, bad United States with all the money and all the know-how and all these smart people and all the military might and all the money, and we're not even in the top 10, I don't believe. So how does that not fit? What doesn't make sense about that? We have all this stuff, but we're not in the top 10 longevity-wise. Supposedly best hospitals, best technology, best. We're not. Our numbers don't support it. So something has to change. I'm electing these people. I'm sending my campaign dollars in. I'm sending my support. I'm protesting. I'm advocating. I'm doing all this stuff for people that are trying to make the quality of my life and my children's life and my friend's life and my fellow countrymen's life better by the blind support of some of these companies that members of Congress, members of the Senate, they're getting paid. They're getting paid. Listen, follow the money, man. Follow the money. These people have you fooled. These friends of mine that I'm blocking on my social media as I listen to their rhetoric about Robert Kennedy isn't this, Robert Kennedy, he's onto something that no one else has done. He's calling people to the curb, man. He's telling you, hey, big mouth, come on out here and let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. What are you doing? What are you doing with it? What's the science behind it? What's real? Not what? Listen, let me go back. I remember I said earlier in the podcast that my child's own pediatrician, great doctor. She's absolutely, I'm not going to say her by name, but she's a great doctor. But my son, she's taking good care of my son. But we started talking about, because we're in the immunization stage, and I said, well, I told her my fears about certain vaccines and their correlation between autism. And so she went, oh yeah, that was a study and that was premature. And that was, again, what is she quoting? She's quoting not just the big pharma companies, are telling her and supplying her with information and stuff, but the science of it, the educational science, the universities that do the studies, the scientists that make the statements, the New England Journal of Medicine, those types of places. They're dirty. They're absolutely being controlled and grants go to them, and money goes to them to support them, to report the things that the big conglomerate companies want you to say. So when I see my lovely pediatrician say, yeah, that's been debunked, that study. Actually, what we found out is that the long-term, based on what? Did you do the science? Did you inject 5,000 people with that and monitor and do a control and then all the variables involved? Did you do that? Or are you reporting what you've been told? Are you reporting what they're feeding you at Johns Hopkins? Or what they're feeding you at, and just name the facility or the hospital chain? Or no, man, let me tell you something. There's stuff out there that you don't even get the chance to see, that gets shelved by the big companies. I'm involved right now with a scanner, a CAT scanner, that is so revolutionary and cutting edge. It costs less than the big scanners. It's 64,000 times the resolution, and it's portable. You don't have to be taken out of your room and all the way down to some cold basement center. And it takes less than 1 minute to see the results of the scan. You don't have to have somebody come in and wait 30 minutes for the information to be through an AI computer, be reported and create those images that are interpolated. They're not even accurate. It's not even all on a scan. There's a picture above, a picture below, and 4 millimeters in between, that the computer makes up what it thinks based on the picture above and picture below. This scanner will revolutionize how we scan human beings. It's as bigger than the MRI, than when the MRI first came out. And everyone's going to have one. I'm on the board of the company, and I'm going to see to it, because of my close affiliation with breast cancer through my mother's breast cancer research fund at Stony Brook University. I'm going to make sure that this scanner goes worldwide and becomes the next biggest thing ever in scanning. And there's nothing anymore that, the big scanning companies, Siemens, GE, or any of them are going to be able to do about it. It's out. It's out. There'll still be a need for those big scanners. They'll have their share. Every clinic, every orthopedic, every brain, every internist, everyone's going to have one of these. Everyone. And you know what? There's a lot of people that don't want it to come out. There's a lot of people that, even though it's a superior scan, even though it's 75% less radiation, even though it runs off a 220 into your wall, and it's portable, and you can bring it into the OR, and you can service old people in a truck and bring it to their house. There's a lot of people that don't want that to come out. There's a lot of people that will lose part of the market share, even though this tremendous advancement will come out. Do you know how many things there are that are like that? Do you know how many things don't get congressional approval, don't get the necessary FDA approvals and everything, because they threaten the big ones that pay out all the money? Hundreds and hundreds of inventions, hundreds and hundreds of drugs that completely eradicate the methods that are being used right now, that will never see the light of day. Brilliant men and women that spend their time, their lives, trying to crack this code, trying to crack genetic codes and use new types and new methods that will change the way it is, but they got to get approved. And guess what? That approval comes through the government. These are government agencies that have to say it's okay for you to try it. Or you got to go somewhere far, far away where they're way ahead of us and they don't allow the government to get involved in how we save lives and treat them. So, Robert Kennedy, at the risk of losing his own family members, I was so sad to see his cousin, to see Caroline come out and say all the terrible things that she said in trying to sway whether or not he gets in and gets approved by the Senate. And what a sellout that was. But I do believe in my heart of hearts that, just like my own father, actually, who was a staunch Democrat, and Alec and Billy, I have very strained relationships with, and a big part of it, particularly with Billy, is Trump being elected. And then I told him he was going to get elected. I pretty much months and months in advance laid a roadmap out for everybody, saying, here's what's going to happen. And I've been deadly accurate with it. 18 months before, I told you Joe Biden wasn't going to run. I thought it was going to be, if they wanted a chance to win, it was going to be Michelle Obama. Instead, they picked Harris, and as soon as I heard that, I was like, okay, now he's definitely in. There was no way she was going to beat him. And I knew he was definitely in anyway. I told you he was going to win. I told you Biden wouldn't run. I've told you a lot of things that are going to happen. And so I want to make sure that this is very poignant, and I'm not trying to scare anyone. And I'm sure they're going to examine taking me off air or banning me or doing whatever. So the following is my opinion. This is not based on any science. This is based on repetition. This is based on solely my own feelings, my gut reactions, and my intuition. I think we're going to face, within the 4 years that Trump is president, we're going to face some other type. I'm leaning towards the bird flu now as being the carrier. I think you're going to look at a worse pandemic than we had before. Unfortunately, I think that's coming. I think that they will manufacture it. They will allow it to happen. They want it to happen. They want to squash. And this is all for political and financial gain. All of it. No worrying, no caring. Look, go back and look at COVID for a minute. Look and understand that Barack Obama signed over initial monies that went to Wuhan, the clinic. He approved hundreds of thousands of dollars to go over there to study this. And the leak has now been traced back to the same clinic that created it. I believe it was weaponized and used for financial gain and also in an attempt to change the outcome of the 2020 election. That's my belief. There's a lot of people out there that have attacked me for being a conspiracy theorist or what do I be. I'm telling you that's what I believe. And just like I'm going to tell you now, and I've told you many other things, we will face another pandemic. They will do this for two reasons. They've proven that they can make hundreds of billions of dollars by doing it. And another reason that they'll do it is to try to block after losing with Trump. They don't want J.D. Vance to take off, and they don't want the White House to go to a Republican for the next 12 years. And Vance is going to run. Vance will probably win if we can derail some of the plans that are being already put into action against the Republican Party, specifically to stop Trump from being successful. I believe this is what they're going to do. So you heard it here. I've told you what I think. Once again, I'm sure I'm going to be puffing my chest out at one point or another. Now, what we do, puffing my chest out at one point or another, telling you that I already predicted this was going to happen again. And very few people will listen. Some of my closest followers who contact me individually say, hey, what can we do about that? And I can tell you some of those things. I have to protect myself to make sure I tell you over and over again that this is my opinion. I have facts that I examine that help me come to my opinion. But take a look at some of the homeopathic and already remedies that were out there before the last pandemic that hit. And then look at the fact that they were pulled off the shelves and you couldn't buy them anymore. Couldn't buy ivermectin, couldn't buy a lot of things that to this day, people will tell you, well, if you get COVID, just take this. It immediately takes care of it. You couldn't find stuff that was on the shelves regularly at pharmacies, at Walmart, at all kinds of different places. It was taken off. The production of it slowed down, or it was taken off the shelf, so you couldn't. So again, you had to go get the shot. You had to go do what they said they wanted you to do. They conformed us. They narrowed down that cylinder and they pushed us right down the drain, right down like little sands, dripping down into the hourglass. They set it up so you really didn't have a choice. So, stocking up on certain remedies, because there will be another shot. There will absolutely be another shot that prevents bird flu, that stops you from getting this new COVID-29, this whatever it's going to be. But they're going to throw something at us. It just makes them too much money. And they don't care about you. They don't care about you. Because for 45 years, they let you ingest a dye that they knew could give you cancer. So when Robert Kennedy says that he wants to end some of this craziness, he wants to change it, excuse me, and people attack him and say, what qualifications do you have? What qualifications do you need? My my 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds will look at me and go, well, yeah, if that comes out of a airplane and it can make you really sick, why wouldn't we stop the airplanes from doing it, take the stuff out of the fuel that's burning it, or do whatever we have to do to ensure the fact that that can't happen, that Food and Drug Administration, so they oversee what we eat and what drugs we take. That's their job. Robert F. Kennedy wants somebody in there that is going to do their job, that is going to revamp the whole thing, that is going to take a look at all the products and all that. It's really simple. Like I said, just give me a list of all the stuff that's really bad for you, that we know is bad, that shouldn't be ingested at all, and take it out. All of it. I don't care what the profits for the company is. I don't care. The first goal in all of this should be the physical, mental, spiritual, and psychological well-being of our people. Take it out immediately. Immediately take anything off the market that can make you sick. For sure. Right? I think that's what he wants to do. And I think that's shaken up a lot of trees. Between 2016 and 2022, election cycles, the top 10 pharma firms gave $29 million to Democrats and $24 million to Republicans, according to an analysis by the group Conservatives for Lower Health Care Costs obtained by the New York Post. The study looked at available data from Open Secrets and includes funds given to super PACs supporting prominent political candidates. This analysis reinforces what we've known for some time. Big Pharma has long used its excessive profits to peddle influence with both parties in Washington, said Colin Seeberger, a senior communications advisor at the Center for American Progress Action Fund. So, both sides of the aisle, they receive money, which that in itself, if you're a lawmaker, if you're someone who signs your name and that signature is representative of the millions of people, hundreds of thousands, the two people, it doesn't matter, that you represent, and that your oversight and signature and vote for this issue somehow brings you financial gain or is tied to someone or something or a company that you have a vested interest in, you're on the board, you own stock, or you're just being paid, or you're being contributions made to your campaign, you should be eliminated from being able to vote for that. Or you would have to renounce your ownership or disinvest yourself or whatever. So why are the example I read, Nancy Pelosi, allowed to have an interest in anything that has to do with water in California or anything that has to do with real estate deals in California, when there's committees that are making decisions that will have a direct outcome on the value of that property? And again, I'm not claiming that this happened. I'm telling you what, this is something I read in an article. So I wasn't there. I don't know 100% if it's true. But no matter what politician, how is it right that I'm going to vote for something that I have an interest financially in? How is that allowed? How is that allowed? How is it, according to reports, that Fauci, who bought these vaccines, supported them, told people that you have to get them. The only way is, and then rescinded and went back and said, well, I got sick and this one gets, actually, they don't stop you from. You are absolutely not going to get this disease, and the only way you can stop it from is getting this vaccination, one of these vaccinations. I mean, he said things like that. And it wasn't true. And it turns out that there are reported royalties about this. There is financial gain that was absolutely discovered, claims that they've been discovered for Mr. Fauci. And so when you're the president, and we've already gone over, what are the side effects? How many people have died? What were the long terms? How many people have Alzheimer's? They got this metals on their brain through getting this vaccination. What's it look like 30 years from now? What's it look like 40 years from now for the kids that got that? Will there be birth defects? Will there be sterilizations? Will there be, I don't know, but are these things going to happen as a result of taking the shot because it was untested by a guy who got financial gain, reported financial gain, and approved and told us that we should go get this shot. Told American soldiers and advised that they needed to get the shot. Rules were made under the Biden administration that you could not go back to work or keep your job in many fields if you did not get this shot. An untested, unproven, now known to be very dangerous, potentially dangerous vaccination that people are still getting now. You can walk into drugstores and they say, you want a shot? You want your shot? You can still go get it now. They're still telling you to get it. How is this possible? How in today's society is it possible that even though we now know that there was financial gain, even though we now know that there was some real crooked stuff going on here, stuff going on that is more than just reasonably questionable. I don't know. But I know there's a guy, and his name is Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and President Donald Trump has pushed this guy to go in there and try to straighten it out, to go in there and try to make it right, without ties to big pharma, without ties to anybody really. He just wants to straighten it out. Isn't there a lot of people against this guy who stands for just trying to make it right, who just really wants to make it safe? Why is that? Who would ever want to get in the way of someone who wants to protect our children? Who? He's not saying he has some other alternative that he sits on the board of the company he owns stock in. Then I'd say, hey, wait, what's he up to? He just wants to make it better. He just sees the obvious writing on the wall, stuff that I've pointed out to you in this podcast. And he said, yeah, man, this is wrong. I'm going to stand up to him. Let's straighten this out now. Let's get it done. And I'm such in support of this guy right now. I want him to expose it all. I want to know what every one of them did. Listen to this last piece. Washington. 72 senators and 302 members of the House of Representatives cashed a check from the pharmaceutical industry ahead of the 2020 election, representing more than 2/3 of Congress, according to a new stat analysis of records for the full election cycle. Pfizer's Political Action Committee alone contributed to 228 lawmakers. Amgen's PAC donated to 2018, meaning that each company helped to fund the campaigns of nearly half the lawmakers on Capitol Hill. Overall, the sector donated $14 million. There's a great scene in the movie Caddyshack, and they're going to go out and play this golf match. Many of you who are old enough to remember that movie remember the guy who's the caddy master. I can't think of the character's name. He's got, okay, on the first tee, and he's calling everything out, and he's going to judge and make sure everything is done fair. And Rodney Dangerfield walks out and whips out a wad of cash. He goes, hey, keep it fair, keep it fair. And he goes to slip him some, oh, sorry, and he puts it in his pocket, bribing him. So, am I saying that I know that any congressmen or senators or law officials or judges or anything have been directly received or accepted a bribe? No, I'm not saying that. But I am saying if you took a campaign contribution that helped you get elected, a cash, a write-off, a check, or whatever it was, from somebody who you helped. Now, if we both believe the same thing, if we both believe that we should not be in a war in the Ukraine, if we both believe, and you contribute to my campaign to see that I win because I represent issues that you find very strong or support, that's what it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be giving money to the guy that you want to win. If you're taking money because you're specifically going to make decisions for a company that helps them make money that you know are bad for people, that you know that you're doing something, and you know what I'm talking about. If you're supporting a company that has proven carcinogenic properties in it, if you're supporting a company that does bad things to the environment, if you're supporting a company that, and blah, 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 I can go, and you're taking that money, whether in the form of trips, whether in the form of luxury hotel stays, vacations, whatever it is, those are direct bumps. That's direct money. That's illegal. That happens all the time. America, listen to me. It happens all the time. There are people out there that do bad things. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is trying to go in there and he's trying to straighten out what has been bad for a long, long time. We need to, when you have a bad injury, a cut, and now it's gotten septic, it's really infected. What you really need to do first is you need to open that wound up and clean it all out. You got to scrub it out. It's painful. You got to take antibiotics, and you got to heal that terrible cut because it's infected. Our healthcare system is dramatically infected right now. I know because I'm dealing with this scanner that I told you about earlier that we're trying to get going, and it has FDA approval now, but trying to deal with the number of people that work in hospitals that go, yes, this is a revolutionary new device. It's absolutely mind-boggling what it's capable of doing. But we have contracts with other companies, and really financially to go in front of the board after I just convinced them to renew our contract with this scanner or this apparatus or it's not going to make me very popular, and I would probably, I might be in jeopardy of not being elected for my job again, or I thought your job was to make sure that the people that come to your hospital get the best service possible and to protect them and keep them alive. I thought that was the job. So I thought the job of the person that runs this agency is to give and provide the best care for human beings, particularly American human beings, as possible. That's the job. Don't get caught up in all the other nonsense. Don't get caught up in anyone else's theories or what you think about them as a person. But the job is to run this health agency the best we can. Cut out a lot of this red tape, cut out a lot of this criminal activity, expose what's going on. And we're going to have to open the wound up and scrub it out a little bit first. It's going to be a little painful and a little uncomfortable for people. But the goal is to make it the best we can make it. And I believe that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is trying to do that. I really do. At great personal loss, I believe that he really is. So I hope that we find out that he's gotten in. I get a lot of people that mention to me, why do you do this show and why do you talk about these things and why? Well, because they're topical, they're going on right now, and I have strong feelings about them. As I've gotten older now, I don't know, am I going to live for another 20 years, another 40 years? Am I going to die tomorrow? I hope not. I have, my wife and I have a lot to still do together. And I love spending time with her, and I want to be with her, and I want to be with my kids. I want to raise my son. But I'm 64 years old. And I got to tell you, the way we do things in this country and the things that are legal to do are not legal hardly anywhere else, except for like third world countries that are trying to kill you. So I don't know whether I can survive being here all the time anymore. I really don't. I mean, I love America. I'm an American for sure, and I love my country. But if we don't change some of the stuff we're doing, the political interests and the scamming and the lying and just all of it, man, it's so bad. It's epidemic proportion now. It's really that bad. And I don't know what to do. I really don't. So if we don't get Trump, Obama, or rather, I'm sorry, Trump and J.D. Vance and RFK Jr. and these types of characters and Elon Musk and people that are progressive thinking, that aren't part of the system, that don't owe favors to anybody. We don't get these free thinkers involved in turning this around. We're going to be in a lot of trouble, man. We're going to be in a lot of trouble. We're going to watch China and Russia and a lot of other countries just kind of shove their influence in here and take over in a lot of categories. I'm really worried about it. I'm so happy that this administration got in because I really worried about what was going to happen. If Harris had gotten elected, I don't think we would recognize America after 4 more years of this. I really don't. We've sold so much of it down the river now. So it's time to recuperate. It's time to get it back. I know many of you will share my feelings about the government and many of you will not. But I want to hear from everybody. I want you to write. I want you to write me. I want you to question me. I want you to support your view by putting stuff in there that, in your posts that make sense, that are topical, that we can go back and forth. I think we're gonna have the website up in the next week. So hopefully we'll have the website, we'll have a message board, a calendar, different stuff. And we're gonna bring in other people on. We're gonna start Zooming people in. We've got the studio going up over here. This is my office at my house. So I've got a new backdrop and my wife's helping me design it. Well, she's actually designing it. She's like far better at all that stuff than me. She's far better at most things than me. But I'm the one that gets to sit in front of the camera and I'm the one that gets to talk about stuff. So, yeah, I really hope that they approve this guy. I really do. I think he's going to hit the ground running. So my prayers are with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And that they have the common sense to get him through and let him start doing the things that President Trump has promised we're going to get done in this country. So if you are a proponent of praying, good, then stick around, because as you know, each show I end with a prayer. And if praying is not your thing, then it's time to shut it down. And I will see you on Monday. Have a blessed weekend, everyone. Lord God, God, we thank you for your continued hand and your guidance for all of us, Lord, and your protection, God. We love you and we need you in our lives. And so if you know the Lord Jesus Christ, then amen to you. And if you don't, may you please find him today, because he is my spiritual leader. He is my everything. So, and God, please guide this government and please guide these people into seeing how badly we need Robert F. Kennedy Jr. right now to run our health care, run the health system here for President Trump and for our country and for this current administration, so that we can kind of clean it out, Lord. With your guidance, we're going to make it a godly thing, and we're going to make it better healthcare in this country for our older people and for our children, everybody in between, Lord. In your name we pray. So, praise Jesus Christ, my friends.